Hey guys, welcome to our channel. We are your hosts, Penny and the Flynn. And today we are building something a little bit different again. I was really trying to think outside the box, which then put me right back into a box. We're building a boxcar. So while I was building my last build last week, I got in my head that I really wanted to build a train yard. So this is where the idea came from. I was really hoping to build this massive train yard, but I was having a really hard time figuring out where I could put this big huge train yard and have it look good and not have it stick out like a sore thumb. And unfortunately, there's not really any good lots anywhere for that. So I had to choose this small little lot in Evergreen Harbor. So this lot used to be the Caboose bar, but it is no longer. So I really felt like I could get this kind of to seamlessly fit in. So that's what we're doing. We're going with this lot, and it looks like it's a big, huge, massive train yard. So as I was building this, I had to think of the perfect sim to move in, and right away what came to mind to me was a hobo. So what do you think of when you think of a hobo? Is it kind of the stereotypic image of someone that's kind of in dirty clothes, they're a bum, they're carrying this stick with a cloth tied to the end? I mean, maybe that's what you think of when you hear the word hobo. And today, hobo could be considered a derogatory term, but 100 years ago, it really wasn't. A hobo was someone that was homeless that traveled in search of work. They didn't really like to be lumped into other groups like tramps or bums. So a tramp is someone that travels but tries to avoid work at all costs, and a bum is someone who stays in one place and doesn't work. And then usually those people try to get handouts. But hobos were very hard workers. They did a lot of physical, back-breaking jobs. So, hobos first arrived on the scene in the late 1800s, and this kind of came about after the Civil War, and there was a lot of veterans that were returning home from war and would jump on freight trains and hop freight trains to get home. The number of hobos then increased in the 1930s due to the Great Depression, just because there were so many people that were desperate and in search of work. So they would hitch rides on boxcars for a free ride to get to the areas where there was actually work. A majority of hobos were young white men. That doesn't mean that they were all young white men. There were some women, and there were African Americans and also other immigrants that lived this lifestyle as well. Life as a hobo was not easy. In fact, it was pretty dangerous. These people had to deal with bad weather, poor living conditions, and that chance of injury, or death just from trying to hop on these moving freight cars. They also had to deal with the train crew and the railroad police. And the railroad police, or also known as bulls to the hobos, they had a very big reputation of violence towards hobos. So life was hard for the hobo. Although there were many hobos that really did enjoy this lifestyle. They enjoyed that freedom of going wherever, or not necessarily knowing where they were going. Something else really interesting is hobos eventually developed basically their own written language, and it was almost kind of like hieroglyphs, and it was a code for other hobos. So they would use it to communicate back and forth with each other. So some of the symbols would tell another hobo if someone that lived in this particular house was a nice person or they were cruel, if the town was welcoming or not, if there were good places to receive food, if there was a place that was safe to sleep, or even if a hobo community was up ahead. And these hobo communities were known to hobos as jungles. They were basically makeshift camps that were near the railways, and it was a place for other hobos to gather and spend the night, cook a meal, get cleaned up, share stories, and just kind of have other people that understood what they were going through. After World War II, the number of hobos greatly decreased as there was a lot more jobs available for people. But it didn't mean that hobos went away, and there is still a hobo population today in the United States. And they even have a national hobo convention every year in Britt, Iowa. And this has been going on for a long time, but it still even continues to today. So there's your little history lesson for the day and my inspiration behind this, and then we can talk a little bit more about what I'm doing here. So there are no train wheels that I could use to do this, so I'm using this pipe thing from Get to Work, and then that other piece I think was from Eco Lifestyle in the Live Edit Objects catalog. Just really trying to make it look like this thing has wheels, and this is the only thing I could come up with. I think it worked. It worked pretty well. And as for these ladders here, I ended up getting rid of the ladder that takes you into the boxcar because I really wanted the guy that was living here to be able to have pets come up into his boxcar. He has a dog and a couple of cats, and they can't get in on that ladder, so I changed that out. And the ladder that's on the back of the car isn't actually functional. I just really wanted it there for that look. You can add a little bit of platform and stairs to get up there, and that would make it functional. And there is roof space, so you could do something with the upper section, but I didn't. This is a tiny house, and having that roof section takes up a decent amount of tiles. As you can see, it's 72 of 100. So if you get rid of that top section, which is pretty easy, then that you'll gain that, I don't know, that's about 50% of the tiles right there. So I think that puts you into a category 2 tiny house. So if you wanted some more benefits, or you want to make sure it functions so you can get up on the roof, you could put a table and chairs up there, whatever. I don't know. I was thinking this might be a deserted part of the train yard, and maybe this is a hobo that's not really a hobo anymore. Maybe he's just too old, or maybe this is stuff that's waiting to get picked up. I made it more overgrown and looking really abandoned. And then something that was also really difficult for me to do was add all this graffiti, make everything dirty. And as you'll see in a little bit, I had to add in a ton of garbage because I just wanted this to look like a not great place in town. Like, this is the neighborhood you don't really want to be in when it gets dark. But that was really hard, adding all this garbage in. Like me wanting to clean up everything and make it look really nice. So that was a challenge for me. I think it turned out really well, and it fits in with this section of town very well. I was also thinking initially I was going to build a signal tower here, but then I realized this would no longer be a tiny house, and I wanted to keep it as a tiny house and kind of a little bit more difficult living conditions, so I didn't do that this time. I might do that in the future. But yeah, I figured this could be a really good lot if you wanted to do kind of like a rags to riches. Yeah, a rags to riches kind of challenge with this. This is actually a starter house price. So if you move your sim in, I forgot how much this is. I'll have to put that in the description. But you could easily get rid of the rest of your money and kind of do a hobo challenge off of this. I was thinking it would be kind of interesting to possibly only pick up like those side jobs and then have to move your sim every so often. It could be kind of interesting, fun, different kind of gameplay. I don't know. I might mess around with that in the future and see if something works out right. But this lot also can be a off-the-grid lot, but the signal lights that I'm going to put in later on these structures, the towers that are over the tracks, would not work if you did that. But I set everything else up to be off the grid, just if you want that challenge. The other challenge I had on this lot was for things to get really dirty, and I forgot what that one's called. So things are going to get gross quick. I feel like that's perfect for this lot. And then I also added that it's a hangout for cats and dogs. I figured there's, perfect place for a bunch of stray animals to congregate. And with this guy having his own pets, I figured he maybe made some friends with the animals, and now he's kind of got his pets. And so later I'll scatter some food bowls around, and I threw the cat litter box outside. And it might get to be a lot of work, but I don't know. I also figure this guy is going to be a lover of animals. So that's what I went with. I changed out this giant fire pit later off camera. Grumpy again, huh? Yeah, I changed that out off camera. Yeah? You want to say something? Maybe. So I changed that out off of camera because I realized with having the one from Outdoor Retreat that you can actually cook over the fire, and it's free to cook over the fire. So that's what I did. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. I thought about it and I'm like, nah, but then I put a couple of rocks to sit on, just make it really like a not great fire pit, and kind of using what's in your surroundings to sit there. Yeah. So I guess Flynn would like to say a little something before we go. Thank you for that commentary, Flynn. We really appreciate it. But we have reached the end of the line, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week. Bye!
No one else can carry this load. It's a train where I'm the only passenger on board. Oh, there is beauty to enjoy on this road. But even so, I still feel that I'm alone. I'm alone. I'm alone. I'm alone. Leave me stranded, I know how.